Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be diving into the high-speed world of Alpine skiing, the Formula One of the winter slopes. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. In the early days of downhill racing, like the 1930s, it said that some professional racers were so obsessed with aerodynamics they would actually coat their faces with a thick layer of heavy wax and seal their ears shut with cotton and pine resin to prevent any air resistance from slowing them down. What do you think? Were early skiers literally waxing their skin for speed? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is schuss. That's S-C-H-U-S-S. Schuss is actually a German word meaning shot or blast, like a bullet being fired from a gun. But in the skiing world, it's used to describe a skier racing down the mountain in a tucked tiny ball, flying straight down without turning. For skiers, a schuss is the fastest way to get from point A to point B because you're following the fall line, the path an object would naturally take if it were falling straight down due to gravity. While it looks simple, a high-speed schuss is incredibly dangerous. Without the friction of turning, a skier can reach speeds over 80 miles an hour in seconds. The word perfectly captures that blast of adrenaline and speed that defines the downhill event. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about alpine skiing. Number 1. One of the most famous gold medals in history was won just 3 days after a near-death crash. In the 1998 Nagano Olympics, Australian legend Herman Maier was flying down the downhill course at around 80 miles an hour when he caught a gust of wind mid-air. He flew off the track, flipped through 2 safety fences, and tumbled several hundred feet. The world watched in horror, thinking his career was over, or potentially worse. But, of course, I wouldn't be covering it as a fun fact if it had such a tragic ending. The Herminator, as he was called, lived up to his nickname. He walked away with a sore shoulder and a bit of a bruised ego, but nothing too severe. Just 3 days later, Maier stood at the top of the Super G course, ignored the pain, and skied a nearly perfect run to win a gold medal. It remains the ultimate example of mental toughness in alpine skiing, proving that in this sport, the difference between a devastating disaster and Olympic glory is often just a matter of hours and an incredible amount of grit. Number 2. The snow and ice on the Olympic course isn't the standard white powder we'd find on every other mountain. If you tried to ski on a professional slalom course, you'd probably slide off. Olympic courses aren't made of soft, fluffy snow. To prevent the course from getting chewed up by dozens of racers, officials use a process called injection. They use high-pressure hoses to inject water directly into the snowpack, which then freezes into a solid glass-like sheet of blue ice. This ice is so hard, racers often have to sharpen the edges of their skis to a razor-like finish just to get a grip. The edges of a professional racing ski are so sharp you could literally cut your fingers touching them. This injected ice, though, is important because it ensures the first racer and the last racer both have the exact same conditions, making for a fair competition where skill rather than snowpack will determine the winner. Number 3. Slalom poles are designed to be hit at full speed. In slalom and giant slalom, you'll notice that the skiers don't just ski around the poles, they smash right through them with their shins and arms. These hinged gates, invented in the 1980s, they have heavy-duty springs at the base that allow them to snap down to the ground when struck and then pop right back up. By hitting the pole with their shins, protected by hard plastic guards, the skier can keep their feet as close to the gate as possible, taking the tightest and fastest line down the mountain. Before these hinged poles existed, skiers had to navigate around wooden poles that were fixed in place, and a collision with those could be quite dangerous, so skiers had to give a wide berth, which obviously slowed them down a bit. Number 4. Skiers will actually do a little pre-jump to avoid catching big air. When a skier is moving at 80 miles an hour, even a small bump in the terrain can act like a ramp, launching them 50 feet into the air. While that might look cool, being in the air is actually bad for a racer because they can't accelerate or steer while they're flying. To combat this, racers use a technique called the pre-jump. Just before they hit the crest of a hill, they actually jump up early. By doing this, they land on the backside of the bump sooner than they would have if they had just let the hill launch them. This keeps their ski on the snow for longer, allowing them to maintain their glide and keep their speed up. So, ironically, they jump so they don't spend as much time in the air. And our 5th and final fun fact for today: Alpine skiing was the first sport to use electronic eyes for timing. Because alpine races are won by hundredths of a second, the human eye isn't fast enough to call a winner. In the 1950s, alpine skiing pioneered the use of photoelectric cells at the finish line. As the skier's boot breaks an invisible beam of light, it triggers a clock that is accurate to 1,000th of a second. This technology changed the sport forever. Before electronic timing, races were often controversial because stopwatches held in the hand were simply too inaccurate. Today, the timing systems are so advanced they can even track a skier's intermediate split times at different points on the mountain, letting coaches know exactly where a racer gained or lost their lead. Now for some news you can use. If you want to ski like a pro, you have to look ahead. When beginners get nervous, they tend to look down at the tips of their skis. This is the biggest mistake you can make because of visual latency. By the time your brain processes a bump right in front of your feet, you've already hit it. Instead, you should keep your chin up and look 2 or 3 turns ahead. Think of it like driving a car. You don't look at the hood of the car, you look down the road. By looking ahead, your body will subconsciously prepare for the terrain before you get there, making your turns much smoother and more balanced. Remember, where your eyes go, your skis will follow. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked if early skiers really waxed their faces and sealed their ears with resin to be more aerodynamic. This one's a fallacy. While skiers have definitely tried some weird things for speed, including wearing pointy helmets and rubberized suits, coating your face in wax is a myth. However, there is a tiny kernel of truth in here. In the early 20th century, skiers would put thick layers of grease or petroleum jelly on their faces, but it wasn't for speed, it was to prevent frostbite. At high speeds and sub-zero temperatures, the wind chill can freeze your skin in seconds. So the grease was acting as an insulator. It was a safety measure, not a speed booster. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about alpine skiing with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.